welcome all. Thank you all for coming. I can see from the audience there's like 80% of these people I work with, so thanks for coming. But to the 20% who I don't know, particular shout out because I appreciate you coming. This is maximizing the value of first-party data in a third-party world. Now, that sounds like it's a pretty vague title. My vague job title is Marketing Intelligence Director, which is fairly arbitrary. What it does mean is I can do stuff like this. I have time to do stuff like this. I can see the eyes in the room are drawn to the right-hand side. That's not done by AI, nor is that a Informa-approved content piece. It is, in fact, done with, oh, no? Don't want to do it? Don't worry about it. Let's go here. MS Paint and a trackpad. So I individually sprayed and colored in all the I started trying to draw the UK, and then found it really difficult. So it just became more abstract. I'm just gonna have to go here. It's fine. Okay, here. Yeah, I've trademarked that as well. I don't know how trademarks work, but let's go from here. Anyway, I want to frame this up front. So I'm going to take you on a journey, right? It's going to be a lot of meandering, right? But I promise that by the end, you will understand the value of first-party data, the danger, the actual danger of third-party data, what you put out there, and how to personalize effectively in the context of a B2B audience. So I've never traveled abroad to speak anywhere. So it was like a lot of pressure. And so I did what any data professional would do in my shoes in 2024. And I asked ChatGPT. And I said, hey, how do I guarantee that my data presentation will be a roaring success, right? And it gave me this fairly solid advice. Number one, pick and choose the data that suits your narrative, right? Data storytelling is not an art of, coming up with vague analysis, coming up to a conclusion. It's just about picking the data that suits the story you're trying to tell and throwing the rest out. Number two, use cool, obscure, somewhat hard to read graphs. Like, for me, this is a big thing, right? We are in 2024, not 2004. Bar charts, bar graphs and pie charts, whatever, they're easy to read, but they're so old. Like, we need to use histograms, waterfall charts. These incredibly complex, difficult to interpret graphs are the way forward. Number three, include exciting animations. I don't really need to say anything here. I've already done it, so hey-ho. Throw in as many references to AI and LLMs as possible. Well, I'm 2 slides in, and I've done like 95% of this, so I'm killing it, according to ChatGPT. Number 5, don't say anything that can get you sued or fired. Now, this is a really important one. This is a real conversation I had with the global head of privacy at Informa. I basically sat him down and I said, listen, I'm intending to say some things. And there's some content in here, which, as we'll get to, is vaguely controversial. It touches on the realms of controversy. And so he had a lot of feedback, and we went back and forth. And I said, suppose I garnered legal immunity. And he said, how? And I said, by doing this. If I lay out from the beginning that by no means does the content I am presenting today in any way, shape, or form represent the position of Informa PLC. It's all baseless conjecture and based in no actual reality of certainty. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, now that I've garnered theoretical legal immunity, I can say who actually Informa is. Now, as I said before, 90% of this audience is from Informa. I think there's 10% treasure data, but there's probably like 1 or 2% of you which actually don't know who Informa is, who also just attended the keynote, so probably do. But let's find out my answer for who Informa is, right? So I wanted to, call back to the list which ChatGPT provided me. And it says, OK, use data to suit your narrative. So when I get asked this question by everyone who doesn't know who Informa is, my standard answer is the biggest British company nobody's ever heard of, right? OK, so how do I take this statement, and how do I, in a way that uses data, conclude absolutely that this is the statement that's true? So what I did, FTSE 100 is like the NASDAQ. We're 41st in terms of market cap. What I did is I took the monthly web traffic of every site listed in the top 41, and I ran through a tool called SEMrush, which, if there's marketers in the room, you might be familiar with, and what that gives you is estimates on monthly web traffic. And I basically listed all 41 out, and I saw where Informa ranked in that set. And you can see here, we rank 8th, okay? 63,000 visitors per month to Informa.com. Now, WeTransfer's here. I was in his presentation yesterday, and he said they get 80 million visitors per month. We get 63,000. That's 0.07%. So, that's actually roughly equivalent, by the way, to the 1996 film Space Jam. Now, I'm not talking about the reissue. It's not the re-release. This is the original site of Space Jam. Has about the same traffic as Informa.com. So the answer to, is it the biggest company? It's actually the 8th biggest British company. Now, am I being disingenuous? Yes. Am I using data to suit only my narrative? Yes, because there is some nuances to this data. What I also found is that out of the FTSE 100, the whole FTSE 100, Informa has the most backlinks of any site in the FTSE 100. When you consider we're up against like massive supermarkets, massive retail chains, Informa has the highest backlinks of any site in the FTSE 100. And that tells you that no one goes on Informa.com. Everyone goes on the brand sites. And that's why you get results like this. Cool, all right, let me go. Oh yeah, I've handily put a successful data presentation checklist, and you can see here that I've included use obscure and hard to read understand graphs. Cool, all right. Now, here are 6 images, okay? And what I want you to do is vaguely shout out, how many of these images do you think there's an Informa show for? Just like randomly throw a number out. Bang on. All 6. There is a show for each one of these elements. Now, what I've done is I've handily garnered some actual stats about these shows. Okay, yeah, look here. Foam Expo Europe. Direct quote from a CEO attendee on the website says, the whole foam industry's here. Who is in the foam industry? What is the foam industry? Someone needs to tell me this. Apologies, the senior vice president of the Foam Expo show is in the room with us here, so I won't make eye contact. Deck Expo, right? 150,000 square foot of decking at one show. What's weird is there's also like the International Pool, Spa, and Patio Expo, right? The early birds rates end today, if anyone's interested. But my question is, what denotes the difference between patio and decking? These are all fundamental questions that I'm not going to answer today, but I just want to put in your frame. The next one, this is my favorite show in the whole of Informa. Okay, this is called the Monaco Yacht Show. Now, why do I love it? Okay, what it is, there's 20,000 attendees. There's 20,000 attendees who you or I will never meet. Because at this show, there are 120 super yachts available to charter or purchase. Super yachts. You can buy them at the show. So yeah, the caliber of people who attend this are a little different from the socioeconomic class that I fit into. There's 50 tenders. Can anyone tell me what a tender is? Because that's a real indicator of socioeconomic class. Anyone know what a tender is? Yes. Oh, damn. This one's going to the show. It's a little boat that gets you to your big boat. I didn't know this was a thing until I looked at this site. The FAQ includes, if I reach the show by sea, where should I berth? I bet the FAQ for this, like for CDP World, was like, can I bring my own snacks? The translation's working. Oh, excellent. I'll slow down so it vaguely can keep up. Oh yeah, this is my favorite thing, right? So you're familiar with Zillow. It's the right move is the equivalent in the UK. There's like a price sensitivity filter, right? But there's one on this website, and it's for super yachts, and it starts in millions. This is just wild to me. My other favorite show, which I promise I'm getting to an actual point here, but this is the point, I'm using this in the points that will follow, is Tissue World. Tissue World Miami. 1.8K attendees. Absolutely incredible. There's a show for the tissue industry. Not only that, if in the circumstances you miss Miami, Like, oh, I was meant to go, calendar isn't lined up. Guess what? Dusseldorf. There's another show for tissues in Dusseldorf. That's not it. I've missed Dusseldorf. It's in Germany. Okay? I've missed Dusseldorf. Istanbul. There's 3 shows. Istanbul isn't that far. It's a 3-hour flight to Dusseldorf. What denotes the difference, the nuances of the Turkish tissue industry from the German and the US one is a mystery which I have no answers to. But if that's not enough tissue content, there's a magazine. You can subscribe to a Tissue World magazine for your year-round tissue fix. I'd like to clarify that that's not the marketing slogan of Tissue World, but it should be. All right, now I'm like 18. Oh, yeah. Where are we going here? Oh, include exciting animations. I think we can all agree I definitely did that. OK, so now I'm actually getting to the point. Oh, crap. Sorry about that. Ignore the messages that are popping up aimlessly. Hopefully there's nothing too concerning in there. Anyway, all right. First-party data, second-party data, third-party data. Now, this is the type of audience I don't really need to explain this to, but I'm going to anyway. Right, this is Andy. Andy signs up to Tissue World 2024. He fills in the registration form, and he's a marketing director at a large tissue manufacturer. And he attends sessions on the future of tissue sustainability. So, like this session, that's a recorded element, but this one is about tissue sustainability. Now, second-party data, what is it? Informa partners with Charmin. Now, I have to clarify here, in order to not impact share price. Informa hasn't partnered with Charmin. That's not under wraps. That's not a real thing. But Informa partners with Charmin. They run a data clean room to share insights on partner marketing, and Andy's part of that crossover data set. Third-party data. I'm sure we're all familiar with this one. But a vendor specializing in email marketing for tissue specialists, I'm sure there are some, buys Andy emails from a sales list. He enriches it using a third-party service to pull job title, company, and team size. That's third-party data. So why should I care? OK, here we go. This is Andy. Andy is a marketing director at a large tissue manufacturer. Now, I have to come clean here. His name's not Andy. He's not a marketing director at a large tissue manufacturer. But Andy's a real person. And he's a real person. I'm not going to say if he's part of our audience data set, because I don't want to get into trouble with legal, even though I have legal immunity, as we've established. But he is a person who I enriched for whatever purposes. Andy has a master's degree from London University. It's fairly simple. LinkedIn history is on, scrapable as a third-party data point. I can pull his education level. I can pull where he went to university. Andy is about 32. You can work this out because you take his BA graduation date and you minus an age range, and you suddenly know how old Andy is as well. Andy lives in Walthamstow in London. Right, I can get this from LinkedIn as well. This unlocks all sorts of demographic criteria because you can link it to census data. Then you can get socioeconomic elements of where Andy is, his likelihood of what he does, X, Y, Z. Andy earns around $80,000 to $120,000 a year. This is a salary estimator API, where you feed it basically job title, company, location, and you can pull estimated salary to get a range of earnings. We're all familiar with this stuff. Andy's stated interests include, now this is where it gets interesting. Family. How have I got family? Well, I spoke to a third-party enrichment service provider, and I said, how are you pulling interest data? And they told me they get some of their data from CVs, right? So it turns out when you submit your CV, those companies sell on those CVs. And when you put these like wholesome interests on your CV, like humanitarian endeavor or family or all this nonsense which aren't really your interests, that gets captured and tied to your professional profile. So I know Andy, you know, his interests include family. M&M's, how's this done? So this is another enrichment provider, but essentially, if I have a social following at a show, I can go to a third-party partner who specializes in taxonomizing, let's say, Instagram following. And so I can get a breakout of what Andy is in terms of personal interest, in terms of Instagram following. Andy likes big butts. Big butts. I'm curious to see what big butts is in Japanese. Anyway, how do I know Andy likes big butts? This is a real thing, 100% real. At no point did Andy submit privacy preferences that he likes big butts. He never signed up to that. He never approved that. What happened is Andy has a LinkedIn profile. On LinkedIn, Andy put his Twitter profile. Now, what does that mean? If you pay Elon enough, you can access the Twitter API, which means at scale, I can pull all the verified followers that you have, and verified denotes taxonomic interest. I can taxonomize those into interest categories. And so as a result of this, I looked at Andy's profile, and I found that he was following a Twitter account called Big Butts of South America. I know where Andy works. I know how much he earns. I know his age. And I know he likes big butts. Absolutely unbelievable. I was amazed by this data set. Anyway, right, I'm going to quickly pause here for everyone to delete their social media. I'm going to make a note of who's on their phone right now, quickly scrubbing it. But basically, just be careful of what you pull out there. Because essentially, the message is this data has never been more accessible than ever before. Scraping tools have never been more accessible than ever before. And more of your personal information can be tied to your professional information easier than ever before. Cool. All right. So let's actually get to some proper content. Overuse of third-party data has increased the value of first. Now, I don't need a graph to tell you all that emails have been increasing year on year by some substantial amount. I don't need it, but I do have one. This is this is basically a HubSpot survey, which basically says the global share of cold email going out per year, and you can see actually off the back of Kaz's talk yesterday, he said treasure data and the people collectively attending CDP World is responsible for about 180 million. So we're responsible for a lot of that, but the whole thing here is emails getting increasingly crowded. Now, obviously, writing on the wall, HubSpot's State of Generative AI 23 report, which, by the way, is not at the, let's say, accessible onslaught of AI that is now in 2024. At that point, they said 38% of marketers are using AI to write email. 21% of salespeople who use it say AI is most useful for writing messages to prospects. Now, you combine that with what's coming in tech, and there are 810 products live on Product Hunt specifically dealing with AI email. Now, Product Hunt's a good barometer for the next wave of SaaS tools. So essentially, if you look at it, it's just a listing of all the latest SaaS tools that are coming out. But what does this mean? Essentially, we're at a point now where I can take all of Andy's data points, I can plug it in to a spreadsheet. Honestly, it doesn't even need to be a database. I can sign up. I can pay maybe $20 a month for one of these SaaS tools. I can pay another, I don't know, $50 a month for enrichment services. And suddenly, for about $100 a month, I have the ability to batch send entire lists to an automated tool to write all my emails, dynamically referencing all the content and Tissue World and Big Butts as necessary to convert Andy. And what that means for you guys and for us is that you need to stand out more than ever. And personalized emails doesn't necessarily cut it when all emails are going to be inverted comma personalized. You don't need a CDP to do this stuff. You can do this with no money at all. Okay, yeah, so I have constantly referenced AI, so I think I'm done here. So what can I do? All right, I don't need to tell you guys, but this is Andy. Andy trusted Tissue World, right? They don't give you that data by accident. They trust Tissue World with his personal data and expects them to give them the permissions he's given. And he wants Tissue World to help his business grow. Like, this is the thing for all our exhibitors and such. When a sponsor, like a smaller scale sponsor, turns up to a show, there's a value exchange. They don't just sponsor it. They expect Tissue World to help them grow their business in line with what they've signed up for. Andy doesn't want to be bombarded with irrelevant information and expects his experience to be personalized. There's a reason why Andy tells us his interest categories, his session categories in the registration form. It's because he expects us to personalize the experience in line with that. So I vaguely categorize it into identify, protect, and personalize, all which we do via the CDP. So we have 12K websites across 640 brands, crossing digital with in-event interactions. A CDP enables us to protect, segment, and personalize at scale. Recently, as we've said before, we've merged with TechTarget. What does this mean? TechTarget, I'm sure you guys are aware to some degree, but their big thing is they have intent scoring. So if someone is interested in CDP on a first-party content basis and they are browsing an article on, I don't know, CDP providers, that's a intent score. But if it's someone who's looking for ingestion points and partners of CDP providers, they'll have a higher intent score based upon that content. And so obviously the next step, natural in this process, is TechTarget is eventually going to turn around and say, okay, how do we use in-event intent, session attendees, how do we marry that up with an intent score to unlock intent at scale? Okay, but I know what's coming. This is a real quote, by the way. This is a real quote saying personalization is only realistically possible using email in a B2B context. Now, that's a real quote from me. Only for the purpose of this presentation. But it is a regular thing you hear. And that's because a B2C environment is very different to B2B, right? B2C, you have numbers, right? B2B, okay, we have a large audience, but the customer journey is not linear, right? The person going to Tissue World isn't going to go to Foam Expo in any world, in any environment, unless it's like a really specific, unless it's me, and I've gone to both shows. But outside of that, it's unlikely. And so when you get to the point of personalization, if you go into a lot of effort to personalize, once you run down the funnel of click-through, all the rest of it, you're basically, if I'm marketing to a small audience of tissue industry experts, which there are already so many of, once I get to the point of personalization, it's almost not worth the effort because it's so hyper-targeted. But no. Don't listen to these people, which is me in this case, but it's because it's not true. Personalization can be done at scale. Personalization can be done on a B2B front with a real journey. And so I'm going to bring up Battery Show. So this is something my team's done. They're not here, so this is something I've done. And what it is, it's a personalized landing page, which is going out, I believe, tomorrow, tied to the Battery Show. And what we've done is we've collated. Basically, we've tied all the sessions to different themes, and you qualify for different amounts of miles at each location in Detroit. We've superimposed a map of Detroit, and it basically runs you through and then qualifies you for a competition to win a bunch of passes for next year's show. This is all just using data in our set in a dynamic landing page for each and every single attendee. And there's no limited scale. So we're building a product off the back of this. This is what we've done for pharma, completely different use case, but you can see we're basically pulling in personalized elements. There's, right at the bottom, which I've hidden, there's personalized package costs for people tied to this exercise, so it feeds into a sales cycle. The way we're feeding this into the CDP is basically we're building a front-end tool for marketers to basically interact with, almost like a landing page builder. The CDP will publish from a segment attributes and segment-related attributes. They'll tie together so that all marketers can basically stitch their own one of these. And this is a real way. This is personalization to an individual scale. And there's no limit, right? If I do this to Fan Expo, Toronto Comic Con, which has 170,000 people attending, or I do it to 200 hyper-targeted, it's the same, there's no actual cost because you're using the CDP to function that part. I'm biased for this project because we ran it, but I see this as something to make Informa events Informa. And the reason I say that is because there are other large-scale event firms, but without a CDP, for these reasons, access to audience, speed of data, and tech-agnostic build, they can't do it. And by that I mean that Informa's no stranger. We acquire firms, we acquire tech stacks. So you've got to make sure that everything you're building has to be agnostic of the CMS platform, the email platform, all the rest of it. This has to be bulletproof, basically. And we built it in that way. Speed of data, we send this stuff a day after the show. So it feels like you're still part of the show, you're leaving an insular experience. And access to audience. Obviously, the crossover with digital and in-event journeys is fundamental to enabling something like this. So, yeah, I really am biased, but I would say that this is something that makes Informa events Informa, which is only enabled by the CDP. Right, I think that's it. I spoke at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and there's still like 40 minutes left or something. Is there any questions at this point? Feel free to crack on. Oh, here we go, Wayne.
Can you help me?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. We'll chat. Anyone else? Questions on social media presence? LinkedIn scraping? Let me know. No? I think that's it. Cool. All right, well, oh yeah, sorry, go on.
So how much of this is an experiment, case-to-case, case-by-case experiment, versus a solution that can become scalable over time? What is your feeling? Because each one of this can start as kind of an experiment.
Yeah.
Right? And how would it scale?
Yeah.
CDP help the scale?
Yeah. That's a great question. So the way my team works, we're called Decision Intelligence, and AI forms a part of that team as well, and machine learning. Essentially, what we're an experimentation group, right? So we run just experiments, but there's a couple of like requirements, let's say. First of all, it has to be immediately scalable. So if we prove the success of the experiment, then we can run. What you find in Informa, and I'm sure in some of the large companies you work for, is the marketers are so busy with their own sales event cycles, marketing cycles, that it's difficult for them to have the resource to experiment with technical stuff using the CDP, using elements of marketing automation, digital attribution, all the rest of it, because it's just, they're so slammed with their day jobs. So we're a unit to basically work with the brands. We pick a brand who, we think works well, and we pitch the idea, and then we basically operate as the resource to build the experiment. We then get to a result, analyze, make sure, bias the results as much as we need to by data storytelling effectively. And essentially, we get to a point where like, okay, we've proved it, now how do we roll it out? Then we hand it over to the engineering team and the marketing engagement team to basically say, okay, how can we now scale this? But the fundamentals of scale have been built at the beginning. And I think that's a real important aspect, because it can't just be one experiment for one brand and go nowhere. Perfect. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Just a question about social media. So I come from a consumer background. We used to pull quite a lot of data from our readers as I was a publishing competitor.
Yes.
And then they stopped us doing that.
Yes.
Do you envisage a time when all the other social media platforms will stop that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing. So, basically pre-Cambridge Analytica madness, Facebook, you could do absolutely everything. But post, they shut it off. Instagram is a really difficult thing to unlock, but speaking to our third-party data firm, they have it all. They have persona categorizations of conspiracy theorist, right-wing enthusiast, left-wing enthusiast, like literally to that taxonomy. So you could, and it's tied to an individual. I don't know how they're getting it fully, but it's there and it's out there. And if you pay enough, you can get it. So I think you can't really stop it, is the issue. So if your data's out there, it's not isolated. There is a very specific use case. There's not many people like me who are randomly enriching people in a professional context, but my whole point here is you've got to just be more aware of what you're putting out there. Perfect. Okay, well, I think that's it. I'll thank you.